Hey Marcia, how you been?
Hi, Inga. So good to be here with you.
Thank you. And so what would you like to share about your daughter's journey with I know she's special needs. What would you like to share about your daughter?
I guess I should start with her name is Emma. It's a long name. It evolved into a long name. Um, and the whole name is Emma Lucia Priscilla Balkissoon.
Oh wow.
And
It's a long
and
name.
her name actually means ancient universal light.
Oh wow.
The thing I would like to start sharing about her is that really has come to define a lot about what I hold on to as the value I get from M in this world. And that is that she has not let all of the challenges dim her light at all. Um, she is brain injured and bedridden.
Mm,
When she was 8 months old, somebody pulled a tube out after surgery and she bled out.
mm,
And that caused her to flatline. So she did not have oxygen to her brain for 20 minutes.
oh,
Brain injury typically happens after 3 minutes of lack of oxygen to the brain. At 20 minutes, when we saw the doctors, trying to start her heart by putting their hands in her chest and pumping for 20 minutes, when we realized 20 minutes had passed, I held my husband's hand on the tile floor and I said, I don't know what else to do, so let's pray. And the minute the prayer came out, give me back my daughter, the heart machine started beating again.
wow.
Um, so that was our gift. Our girl came back,
Mhm.
and she came back not anything like she had left 20 minutes before, because the evening before we brought her to do surgery, she had stood for the first time
Oh, oh,
and reached out on an activity table to press some lights and some buttons. And we were so excited to have open heart surgery because we thought the trajectory would be up for her once her heart had been, fixed, because she had four problems in her heart. But the guy taking the tube out that kept her breathing on the ventilator didn't just pull out the tube that was breathing. He pulled out the tube that was inside of her heart, and that caused her to lose all her blood. So it's really such a random thing. Nothing anybody could have predicted. And at that point, you have a choice. I didn't see that I had a choice in the moment. Really, it was instinct that led us forward. But the choice is I can throw my hands up in the air, and I can wail and I can get angry and I can blame the people who did things wrong. Doesn't change what my child is dealing with. And so luckily, I didn't fall into that rut. It was not a conscious decision. It's not that I'm so evolved. I just happened to see that my child needed me, and Sean did as well. And the two of us came down on the same side, and we were like, well, we have to hope for her and we have to fight for her.
mhm.
And so we just started to learn.
Yeah.
We started to observe what's going on with them. Let's understand. What are the pieces of equipment connected to her? Let's understand. So we learn to read all the things, learn about therapy, learn about her diagnosis, learn about her prognosis. What can we look forward to for her? And when the doctors came with their statistics, which were doom and gloom statistics always, we also learned how not to listen.
Yeah.
Because the statistics might say 1.01% of children ever come back from that vegetative state. That's what they said, I think. Um, and somehow, and it had to be my intuition guiding me. I didn't take that. I was like, oh, so you're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we always see
There's
that.
a 1 in 100,000 chance or something like that.
Mhm.
But you're telling me there's a chance. I refuse to see the big odds of her remaining in that bed for life.
Mhm.
my job is not to see that. My job is to see my child's joy and light and potential, and to feel that love that we are meant to travel this road on.
Exactly.
And so that's what she's been teaching me. She's going to be 13 this year, and she's still bedridden.
Yeah.
But where she had lost all of her senses and her ability to suck and swallow, and where they had said, withhold food and let her go, she now has a multitude of playlists because she can hear. She has been diagnosed as blind, yet when we pass red or yellow in front of her eyes, now she turns to the color.
That's great.
So there are miracles
Mhm.
every day
Oh, yes.
if we choose to see them.
Mhm.
I can see the hill and say, well, that's a really steep mountain. And I can think of how much effort it will take, and that I'm not sure that I'll ever reach even to the first peak on that mountain.
Yeah.
Or I can say, let me look behind and see how far I've come.
Mhm.
Let me see how far M has come. And when I look behind, then I stop thinking about the developmental stages that people tell me she's not meeting, and all the things that they judge her worth by, which are not the things we should be judging our child's worth by.
Yeah, sure.
And I see that when she was 5 and she moved her finger for the first millimeter, that's how old she was when I got the first movement. That 5-year movement was a milestone. And it heralded great potential for what was to come. So now we started maybe about 3 years ago to say, well, if you want another mouthful, lift your hand, because she can't speak. And that little hand would move like a couple centimeters.
Yeah.
And, like an inch. And I would look for the littlest twitch, because that twitch said, Mom, another mouthful. And then 2 years ago, I said, if you want another mouthful, do you want another mouthful? Yes. Ah. And she said, ah.
Wow, that's great. Yes.
And that's huge, because that means that Emma can say yes to me now.
Mhm.
And it means by withholding that yes, she can say no.
Mhm.
So she has the power of discretion. This child that they said had lost her entire brain, they said her whole brain had been wiped.
Mhm.
And there was no hope for anything to be regenerated.
Mhm.
But yet she's doing comparisons and choice,
Mhm.
and she knows preferences, and she loves food, and she knows each of us by the sound of our step and by our voice, and she has different things that she wants each of us to do for her.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
I think that's the biggest thing that I want to share, because I think that's the biggest value M has brought into this world.
Mhm.
It's an awareness to me that life may not be easy, and that we may have lost a whole lot.
Mhm.
But despite what anybody else judges about her or about us,
Mhm.
we are worthy.
Yeah.
That little girl in that bed with no words is worthy just for the sake of being her.
Mhm.
And she does not one day have to be able to see a letter and recognize it, or have an educational qualification, or hold a job to be worthy.
Mhm. Yeah, that's wow. That's very inspirational. Thank you so much for sharing your daughter and your journey. I mean, that's amazing. And just like you said, doctors don't know everything. I mean, they can only think of the medical aspect of what they're taught, but they don't understand that, like you said, there's miracles that can happen with our children. I mean, who knows exactly what, the sky's the limit for them. I mean, they keep going and going and going and proving themselves more and more every day. I feel. I mean, like I said, they're always trying to please us as well as we're trying to help them, please them to where they can, move forward and help each other so they can help each other out. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's so great that you did that. I mean, I'm so happy that she's thriving, she's getting, she's starting to do all these little things. And, of
Yeah.
course, like every little milestone is something to celebrate.
I feel like it's this everybody has their own standards that they'll judge things by.
Mhm.
Yeah. So somebody else, if I go to a clinic, sometimes people pass judgment on me and say I'm a terrible parent because
No.
and in the beginning that was really hard to handle because the therapist used to say, keep her socks off. I want her to feel.
Mm.
I want her feet to feel everything. So don't put a layer of socks between her and the world.
Mm.
And I remember going to an orthopedic clinic and this lady stood up in the middle of the clinic and she said, what horrible parents these people are. Look at the state of this child and they can't even put socks on her. I felt like somebody had taken, a huge bat and just whammed it into my belly.
Mhm.
You could try however hard. You will always find somebody who thinks they know better, but they've never walked a mile in my shoes. And even if another parent has walked a mile as a special needs parent, they haven't been my child's mom.
Exactly. They're all different.
Yeah.
And every situation is different. And like you said, that, everyone has opinions, which is sadly true. I mean, some are very hurtful and they don't understand the consequences that they prove, especially for us special need parents, that they don't understand the consequences that they perceive to us, like, oh, well, you're not a good parent, or you aren't doing this right, or something like that. And it is really hurting on us because we're doing our best we can and we don't even know what we're doing half the
But
time because, everything.
we never did a course to learn this thing,
Exactly.
figuring it out day by day,
Hmm.
minute by minute sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Yes, I mean, I can definitely feel you on that one, and I can definitely understand how you can feel like defeated, but you're doing great. You're doing amazing. You're doing the best as you can. I mean, your daughter is thriving, like I said. I mean, don't let people, I know it's easier said than done, but don't let people
Exactly.
discourage you.
But that's it. I just need to look at her. She has the most wonderful smile and laugh. Like she starts every day laughing. And I'm like, I used to start every day really, really depressed because I felt like I was trapped and going through the same loop every day. And my dreams had died and been crushed, and never would I have dreams for me or my children again. So I was in this holding pattern, like a Groundhog Day kind of thing. And she woke up one day and she was laughing so hard. And and for once it broke through my poor me kind of mentality. And I listened to her and I said, who's the person that lost everything? You with your sad sack kind of attitude, or the child who's laughing in the next room? And then I realized she's lost everything as far as my judgment went at that point.
Hmm.
And yet she can wake up every morning and say, what a gift this day is. I can't wait to show up and give all of me.
Yeah.
And that did a whole overhaul on the way I saw life
Hmm.
and on my desire to have new dreams and live very differently
Yeah,
for her and for me.
exactly. That's so great. I'm glad you, not trying to be rude, but I'm glad you came to that realization. Sometimes it does take a while for us to
Yeah.
take a step back and realize, oh, why our children are actually happy, they're thriving, they can show the world that, that they are happy. And so that's why we should figure out, like, okay, well, if they can be happy, then apparently we're doing something right. And then, so why can't we help, be with them in that kind of space to where they can be happy also.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I like with my son. That's how I am with him, actually. Like, I see how he is always like, like when we go out and about, some people, how we are always like, we felt like we're always being judged. Him, he just walks out and does whatever he wants and does anything. And, he doesn't care like how he looks. He doesn't care like what he says. He just goes and goes
Yeah.
and enjoys himself.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, I wish I had his confidence, how he can just be going, okay, I'm me and you're going to deal with me, and
Yeah.
so the
I
world has to
think
see that.
you're going to deal with me. They don't even think about that, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't occur to them that somebody may be judging them, and that's so wonderful.
Hmm.
I just get to show up as me.
Yeah.
unapologetically, and that's it.
Yeah. Exactly. And so that's why I'm amazed on him. And even my oldest is like, "Oh, I wish I had his confidence. I wish I can be like him. Just go up to people and go, hi, and just be happy, and just kind of intrude and not even worry about, what how they're gonna react to. You're just like, okay, you know, just
Yeah,
shrug it off if they don't like you or not, you know. So
true.
so I think that's a great way to see how the world, how some people, how some kids are, just like, okay. And I was gonna ask you though, do you have other children?
Yes, I have an older son, so he was 5 years old when M became brain injured.
Mm,
So I remember he had gone home with my mom. We were in a hospital in Florida to do the open heart surgery because in our island we didn't have somebody who could do it, so we had to fly out to get it done. And he had gone home with my mom at 10 o'clock that night or 9 o'clock that night. And at 10, the doctor had decided to take off the ventilator.
mm,
Um, and yes, it was wise that it would have been wiser to wait until they were on full staff in the day.
mhm,
But it is what it is, and it happened the way it happened. Um, so he came back the next morning to a little girl who was no longer doing well, to a little girl who had just in the space of 8 hours lost all her senses, her ability to suck and swallow, and her whole future. And she was seizing, and this little 5-year-old boy walked in with my mom and saw his sister on all these tubes.
mhm,
And my job was to sing nursery rhymes to him and laugh and play and pretend that life was the same.
mhm,
And for a long time, I don't think I let myself really feel because there were other people that you had to sustain.
mhm.
What I didn't know, because we are talking about Brian, is that he began to parent me that day as well.
Right. Mhm. I believe it.
So he had a smart little head and he looked and he sussed out the whole thing and he was like, okay, this is dire.
Mm,
I remember coming home and he would come to me at lunchtime. He would have gotten his lunch. We would have seen about Emma. But about an hour after lunch, he'd come and he'd hold my hand and pull on it. He'd say, Mommy, it's time for you to eat.
mm,
And he'd tug me to the kitchen and make sure I made something to eat and that I would do it. So he became a little parent to me,
That's so
you
cute.
know? And it was wonderful. It was a very heart-centered kind of way.
Mhm.
But it also was an undue amount of stress on a little person,
Yeah.
you know? He used to hide in his room and not tell us when he was worrying.
Mhm,
We only found that out about 3 years later when I got some counseling for him. And
mhm,
he only confided in the counselor on the condition that she would never tell me.
mm,
He said, I can't stop M from all the pain. She would be bleeding and screaming and throwing up and all sorts of things. It was so horrendous and seizing.
mhm.
And nothing he did could stop it. It was, I think, the definition of hell for him.
Yeah.
So he said, I try so hard to help M, but I can't do it. And he had gotten violent at that point and he used to hit me.
Mhm,
That's why we went to counseling because all of a sudden, I guess the weight had become so crushing
mhm,
that he started to hit out, and the person he would hit out against was me. So the counseling came, and with that came some changes. In that I realized I was trying to keep Emma alive, literally alive, and all of our free moments went into her. So, as with many other siblings in a family like ours, we did the bare minimum for our son who was well.
mm,
He'd get food, we'd see about homework, we'd do the necessary. But all the extra time we used to spend, and we used to spend so much time with him, playing and running and doing hopscotch and reading and playing music. You know, the list went on. And all of those had been just ripped away from him in one night. So I think he felt that loss. He never felt that M had done something to him, but he felt abandoned.
Yeah.
And that was really hard to realize. I had worried from the very start, but I hadn't seen any cues that that was the case. So I had started to relax and said, he's handling it fine.
Yeah.
But that's because he was masking so much. You know, so he told her, Mom and Dad have enough to worry about. So I don't want them to worry about me.
Yeah.
So since he went back after he was 5, he had brought home 100 out of 100 in every report card.
Wow.
That's how much pressure he put on himself. Can't let Mom and Dad worry about me, so I'm going to handle everything I can.
Wow.
But no little kid deserves that kind of pressure, right? So right now he's 18 now, so he's applying to universities, getting a couple responses, feeling the trepidation and the joy. And he's eager to get out into the world and start living his life. And I can't help but feel bittersweet about it, because he's not going to be in this country. And therefore he won't be with us for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And there'll be distance between him and his sister physically. That's going to be hard, because she loves that brother so much. And first thing he does when he wakes up is go jump in the bed next to her, kiss and say prayers and and that will be missing. And he's going to grow up, I guess, away from us.
Yeah.
So it's sad. And I wonder if he's going to come back. But I used to worry that my son would never have a normal young adulthood. Yeah. That he would be a caregiver. When we no longer hear that he would, in his young adulthood, have to take on that duty. It's not even his kid, right? And he said that. He said, don't you worry, Mommy. I think he was about 7. He said, don't worry. When you die, I'll take care of him. And instead of me feeling really happy about that, I felt really sad. What 7-year-old should be thinking those thoughts, you know? So I just I'm relegating myself to saying I just want him to enjoy his life, and everything else will find its way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can definitely understand that. I mean, that's how my oldest is too. They're like, oh, well, I'll take care of, I'll take care of Marty when, something happened to you guys. But then I was like, at first I was kind of like that glad, but then I was like, wait, but then also I was like, but I don't want them to have that burden, to have to constantly keep us, keep a track of, of their
I mean,
siblings.
it's a lot for us to do, right? And this is a fairly young adult. So a young adult hasn't had life experience yet, hasn't really lived their own life yet.
Yeah.
It's quite a load to put on them. So, I'm kind of glad that he's going, that he made up his mind that he's going and he's going to live big, But I want my little boy too.
Exactly. I can definitely tell, I can definitely feel you on that one. I mean, it's hard to let them go, especially because like when we're, like you said, like when we're special needs parents and we get so sidetracked on the one that needs the special, all the special treatments and everything, we kind of grieve that we didn't spend enough time with them when they're younger. And so we kind of grieve like, okay, well now they're older and we're like, now we just missed their life pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's why I can understand that, because that's how I feel with my oldest. I'm like, I just missed their childhood because I was so distracted and so concentrated on the other one And now that they're older, I'm just like, oh, now you try to make up for it, but then they're like, well, I want to start my own life now. And you're like, okay, well, but I can kind of pay more attention to you now. And so that's kind of, it's kind of hard to balance everything.
Yeah, I guess that's when we have to be gentle with ourselves, right? We did the best we could in the situation
Mhm.
and with the people that we were at the time.
Yeah, exactly. And does he know what he's on to study? Is he
He
going?
wants to do like he wants to work with like at-risk populations
Okay.
um to support them socially and that kind of thing. I guess that's what our life has been, right? From clinic to clinic with people who were struggling.
Mhm.
And that must have shaped a lot of his worldview and what he wants to do.
That's great though. I'm glad he's getting into something like that. I mean, I haven't really heard much of that.
Yeah,
Area.
what's the name? It's different programs, but it's like human and social and political systems and international studies, something like that.
Well, it's gonna be a lot of work for him.
Well, that's good. I mean, he does well academically. Um, when I heard the political part of that title, though, I
Mhm.
was like, no, please don't tell me you're doing politics.
Yeah.
Um, I I think politics is hard
Yes.
and chaotic, and I am not a fan,
Mhm. Yes, I don't
you
blame
know.
you for that one. Yeah, politics is definitely nowadays it's getting a little bit more
Mhm.
crazier.
But I guess I'm just saying he do I want him to be a version of me? No, he needs to live his life.
Mhm.
And if this is what he's called to do, then even if I don't understand it, even if I wouldn't choose it for me, I need to give him the freedom to do it for himself.
Yeah, exactly. We gotta give them the wings to go,
Mhm.
start
Mhm.
their own
And
lives.
trust that he'll make a difference in his field.